The African plains blaze under a fading sun. Heat ripples across the grasslands as a male lion raises his head and lets out a roar that seems to shake the sky. Muscles tense beneath his tawny fur. Dust rises in shimmering halos. This is power made visible, cut to the blue abyss of the ocean. A great white shark glides through the water with cold precision, its shadow slipping beneath a seal that never sees the last wave. The surface explodes. White spray, red bloom, silence devoured by the depths. It changes again. A crocodile's jaws snap shut with a crash of bone and water. The river convulses in a violent, deadly somersault, scales gleaming beneath the churning foam. Ancient armor, ancient hunger. Through the undergrowth, a snake coils like a taut spring. The attack unfolds in a fraction of a second. Fangs, venom, recoil. Slow motion reveals the elegance of its lethality, each muscle activating with mathematical precision. These are the predators we venerate, the titans, the protagonists of nature's theater. Then silence. The screen empties of spectacle. The roar fades. The ocean quiets. The river calms. A faint buzzing begins. Close up. A mosquito flits through the damp gloom, beating its wings so fast they vanish into thin air. It lands gently on human skin, almost delicate. A needle slips beneath the surface. A drop of blood rises to its abdomen like a dark dawn. No roar, no splash, just chemistry. On the forest floor, an ant drags a struggling caterpillar much larger than itself. Its mandibles grip it tightly. Around it, others converge. Here there is no chaos, only coordination. The forest floor trembles as if the ground itself were thinking. A praying mantis sways among green stems, mimicking the rhythm of the breeze. Its triangular head turns slowly, almost curiously, as if pondering philosophy. Suddenly, a flash, its front legs shoot forward. The unsuspecting fly disappears among its toothed limbs. Stillness returns. The most dangerous hunters on Earth do not roar. They hum, they crawl, they wait. It's not measured in kilograms, but in numbers, not in spectacle, but in impact. Each year, more humans fall prey to creatures smaller than a paperclip than to all the sharks, lions, and crocodiles in the world combined. In forests, deserts, rivers, and cities, insects regulate life and death on a scale that dwarfs even the grandest mammalian drama. They are architects of ecosystems, bearers of invisible empires, killers perfected by hundreds of millions of years of evolution. The camera rises above the rainforest canopy at dusk. A cloud rises from the trees, mosquitoes, beetles, wasps, dragonflies, millions of wings catching the dying light. The air itself seems alive. Power doesn't always announce itself with a bang. Sometimes it arrives like a whisper, a tremor, a bite too small to notice. Welcome to a world where size is irrelevant, and death comes with 6 legs. A lion weighs 200 kilograms. A great white shark can exceed 2 tons. Its power is undeniable, visible in its muscles and its ferocity. Instinctively, we associate size with danger, larger jaws, longer claws, stronger impact. But nature does not measure lethality in the spectacle. The deadliest thing is not the greatest. The most lethal is not the strongest. More deadly is not the most cinematic idea. The deadliest force is mathematics. It's measured in numbers, in efficiency, in influence on entire ecosystems. Consider this: mosquitoes are responsible for more than 700,000 human deaths each year from the diseases they transmit: malaria, dengue, yellow fever, and Zika. No shark, wolf, or big cat comes close to that scale. The mosquito doesn't dominate its prey, it recruits microbes. Its weapon isn't brute force, but biology. Zoom in. Ants, collectively, may rival the biomass of major vertebrate groups in some ecosystems. In tropical forests, their biomass, the total mass of living ants, can exceed that of large vertebrates. They burrow into the soil, disperse seeds, cultivate fungi, forage for insects, and transform landscapes grain by grain. A single ant is fragile, a colony is infrastructure. Then there's the predation rate. Dragonflies, for example, succeed in capturing prey in as many as 90 or 95% of their hunting attempts. Compare that to most large carnivores, which typically have more failures than successes. Efficiency at this scale transforms ecosystems. Every mosquito eliminated in the air, every gnat intercepted, spreads through the food web. Insects are responsible for the majority of terrestrial predation events, not through spectacular ambushes, but through their relentless frequency. A beetle consumes larvae beneath the bark. A wasp paralyzes a spider. A mantis eliminates a pollinator. Multiply these moments by billions, occurring every hour on every continent. The camera moves. A dragonfly hovers over a still pond, its wings vibrating in perfect harmony. A mosquito darts unpredictably through the humid air. In an instant, the dragonfly adjusts mid-flight, intercepting its target with astonishing precision. The capture occurs almost before the eye can register it. Mathematics in motion, cut to a spiderweb suspended between two branches. Dew clings to the silk strands like a constellation traced in thread. A moth collides with an almost silent catastrophe. The web vibrates. From the shadows, the spider advances, guided not by sight but by tension, interpreting the physics of the struggle as if interpreting a musical score. On the forest floor, a dark line begins to move. Then it widens, then it engulfs. Army ants advance in coordinated waves, overwhelming insects, spiders, and even small vertebrates unable to escape the living tide. No single ant commands the assault. The colony itself behaves like a superorganism, with thousands of bodies functioning as a distributed predator. This is the illusion that size determines danger, unraveling. Insects don't dominate through intimidation. They dominate through systems. Through numbers so vast they defy comprehension. Through reproductive cycles measured in days rather than years. Through an adaptability that has allowed them to persist for over 400 million years. Surviving mass extinctions that wiped out giants. They are not monsters lurking beneath the leaves. They are regulators, engineers, guardians of balance. If lions disappeared tomorrow, ecosystems would be shaken. If insects disappeared, they would collapse. Earth's deadliest predators are not the result of strength or mythology. They are woven into the earth, suspended in the air, flowing with the rivers, and their power lies not in size but in scale. At the edge of a stagnant pool, life begins in stillness. The water is opaque, tinged green by algae and floating debris. Sunlight barely penetrates the surface. Yet just below, the water trembles with movement. Slender figures writhe in frenetic pulses, mosquito larvae suspended upside down, breathing through delicate siphon tubes that pierce the surface like periscopes. They seem harmless, almost fragile. Each contraction is a rehearsal. Each undulation is preparation for flight. Days pass. The larvae molt, transform, and rise within translucent envelopes. Then, one by one, the adults emerge, balancing impossibly on the water's surface before ascending into the humid air. The transformation is silent, without fanfare, without warning. As night falls over a tropical village, a faint buzzing sound begins to be heard. A female mosquito hovers in the warm air. She doesn't search randomly. She reads the invisible signs of life. More than 20 meters away, she can detect carbon dioxide, the gas exhaled with every human breath. A plume of CO2 becomes a trail in the darkness. She follows it with unwavering precision. Closer now. Her antennae refine the signal. Heat radiates from exposed skin. Specialized sensory organs detect temperature gradients as subtle as fractions of a degree. Chemical signals, lactic acid in sweat, traces of compounds unique to each body help it pinpoint its target. Through thermography, the human form shines like a beacon in the night. To it, we are not people, we are heat maps. It lands almost imperceptibly. Its legs touch down with the utmost caution. The proboscis descends, a structure far more complex than a simple needle. It contains multiple microblades that gently cut the skin in search of a blood vessel. Once located, it injects saliva containing anticoagulants and mild anesthetics. The host rarely feels the intrusion. The blood begins to flow. Its abdomen darkens as it fills, expanding like a crimson lantern. The food will nourish the eggs developing inside. That's why it bites. Only the females need blood and only to reproduce. The males feed on nectar, causing no harm. The mosquito does not hunt with teeth, hunting with biology. In a matter of minutes, he walks away, leaving behind nothing more dramatic than an itch. But within that small wound, an exchange may have taken place that transforms destinies. Mosquitoes are vectors, organisms that transmit pathogens between hosts. Malaria parasites, transmitted by Anopheles mosquitoes, infect hundreds of millions of people each year. Dengue and Zika viruses, transmitted by Aedes species, take advantage of the same close contact. The insect itself is not harmful. It is a bridge, a syringe with wings. Under a microscope, the malaria parasite reveals a life cycle of astonishing complexity. It begins in the mosquito's gut, migrates to its salivary glands and waits. When injected into the human bloodstream, it invades liver cells, multiplies silently, and then bursts into circulation, infecting red blood cells in waves that cause fever, chills, and, in severe cases, death. The mosquito becomes both a breeding ground and a messenger, a collaborator in an ancient biological alliance. And yet, in nature, this same insect plays another role. Mosquito larvae filter organic matter from the water, thus contributing to nutrient cycles. The adults become food for dragonflies, bats, birds, and fish. If they are completely eliminated, the food web shrinks unpredictably. Even so, the figures are alarming. More humans die each year from mosquito-borne diseases than from any other animal on Earth. Not from bites, not from venom, but from transmission. The night deepens. The buzzing intensifies. A child stirs in sleep beneath a fine net. A mosquito flits at the edge, sensing the warmth beyond the mesh. The mosquito doesn't kill alone. It carries something older than humanity, parasites and viruses that have evolved alongside us, adapting as we adapt, persisting through empires and extinctions alike. Within its fragile framework, brute force does not prevail, but rather an ecosystem of microscopic allies. And in that alliance lies its terrible power. Beneath the surface of a single drop of blood, an empire develops. Under magnification, the malaria parasite no longer appears as an abstraction. It becomes a living architecture of invasion. Slender, crescent-shaped forms float among red blood cells, gliding inside with clinical precision. Once sheltered, they multiply silently, dividing again and again until the host cell ruptures, releasing a new wave into the bloodstream. Fever follows, chills, a body shivering in the tropical heat. But this story doesn't begin in the human body, it begins inside a mosquito. When a female Anopheles mosquito feeds on an infected host, she ingests microscopic gametocytes, the reproductive forms of the parasite. In her gut, these fuse and transform, perforating the stomach lining to form cyst-like oocysts. Days later, thousands of sporozoites are released and migrate to her salivary glands. There they wait. The next bite isn't simply about feeding, it's about transmission. Viruses operate with similar elegance. Dengue and Zika enter the mosquito's digestive tract, replicate, and then migrate to its tissues. Unlike bacteria, viruses are not entirely alive in the traditional sense. They are genetic instructions wrapped in proteins, molecular hijackers. Once injected into a human host, they infiltrate cells and transform them into factories for viral replication. This is a war on a scale smaller than dust. Cut to a hospital room, monitors flicker gently. A patient lies under sterile light, IV fluids dripping at a steady rate. Medical staff move carefully, trained against an enemy invisible to the naked eye. The air smells faintly of antiseptic and a quiet urgency. Now let's compare that to a swamp at dusk. The water lilies float peacefully. The frogs begin their evening chorus. The sky shifts from gold to indigo as mosquitoes rise in shimmering clouds. Here no alarms sound, no sterile gloves are involved. Transmission occurs silently, absorbed by the background hum of wetland life. For millions of years, this exchange has shaped evolution itself. Humans are not passive victims. In regions where malaria has been endemic for generations, certain genetic traits, such as the sickle cell trait, have persisted because they offer partial protection against severe infections. It's a brutal calculation. A mutation that can cause disease also increases survival in a parasite-rich environment. Evolution doesn't optimize comfort, it optimizes persistence. Mosquitoes adapt too. Insecticide resistance evolves when chemical pressure eliminates susceptible insects and preserves resilient ones. In just a few generations, entire populations change. Mosquito nets improve, sprays are intensified, insects adapt. An arms race ensues where biology responds to biology. However, beyond the human tragedy, disease transmission also regulates wildlife populations. In tropical forests, mosquito-borne pathogens affect birds, primates, and ungulates. Parasites can limit overpopulation, preventing any single species from depleting resources. Even viruses, destructive at the individual level, can maintain balance at the ecosystem scale. It's a difficult truth. Pathogens are not moral agents. They are participants in ecological systems determining who thrives and who declines. If they are completely eliminated, other imbalances could arise. Even so, not all the lethality of insects depends on microscopic accomplices. Some predators do without viruses and parasites altogether. They don't delegate destruction to invisible allies. They rely on reflexes measured in milliseconds, on wings fine-tuned by ancient physics. As twilight fades and the swamp's hum gives way to the sharp drone of hunting flight, another silhouette takes to the air, sleeker, faster, guided not by infection but by interception. Some kill by transmission, and others depend on speed. The pond seems motionless in the setting sun. The reeds remain still. Water striders trace delicate hieroglyphs on the surface. Then a shadow passes overhead, fleeting, almost imperceptible. A dragonfly enters the scene like a living aircraft. Its wings beat independently, 4 transparent blades that catch the light in prismatic flashes. Each flap is controlled with astonishing precision, allowing it to hover, glide, reverse, and pivot in the air. No movement is wasted, no hesitation. The head is dominated by 2 enormous compound eyes, each composed of up to 30,000 individual lenses called ommatidia. Together, they form a mosaic of vision that almost completely encircles the skull. For the dragonfly, the world is not a narrow field in front of it. It is a nearly 360-degree motion detection system. Nothing goes unnoticed. A mosquito flies through the humid air, zigzagging unpredictably. For most predators, this erratic flight is a form of protection. For the dragonfly, it's a solvable equation. In a fraction of a second, its brain calculates the trajectory, not where the prey is, but where it will be. Instead of pursuing it directly, the dragonfly adjusts its angle of attack, intercepting it in midair with effortless inevitability. The collision is precise. The mosquito disappears into a basket of spiny legs, consumed before gravity can retrieve either of its bodies. Studies suggest that dragonflies are successful in as many as 90 or 95% of their hunting attempts. Compare that to lions, wolves, or sharks, which may fail far more often than they succeed. In terms of raw efficiency, the dragonfly is among the most successful predators on Earth. When the recording is slowed down, its mastery becomes even more extraordinary. Each wing can independently alter its trajectory, creating complex aerodynamic forces. When hovering, the wings beat out of phase, preventing turbulence from one pair from interfering with the other. When accelerating, they synchronize to generate thrust. The result is an agility that rivals that of modern helicopters, engineered not in laboratories, but through 300 million years of refinement. Because dragonflies are ancient. Long before birds soared through the skies, before mammals walked the earth, their ancestors dominated the prehistoric airspace. During the Carboniferous period, when oxygen levels were significantly higher, dragonfly relatives, such as Meganeura, reached wingspans of over 70 centimeters. They were aerial titans that glided over swampy forests filled with towering ferns and colossal insects. Today's dragonflies are smaller, but no less formidable. Their nervous systems are programmed for prediction. Research shows that dragonflies maintain constant orientation angles during a chase, a strategy that ensures interception rather than tail chasing. It's the same principle used in modern missile guidance systems. The insect doesn't just react, it anticipates. Above the pond, a swarm of mosquitoes forms a shifting cloud. A dragonfly dives into the chaos. To the human eye, the swarm is confusion. To the dragonfly, it is chaos represented by vectors of movement. It selects targets with fluidity, changing course mid-flight without losing speed. Each capture is clean and efficient. Below, fish rise to catch the fallen fragments. Frogs watch from the lily pads. Even birds track the dragonfly's movements, recognizing both competitors and prey. In this stratified environment of air and water, roles are constantly shifting. A predator can be hunted in an instant. However, in its domain, the open sky just above the vegetation, the dragonfly is sovereign. It does not depend on the poison. It does not depend on parasites. It does not require swarming. It is based on physics and perception. As the sun sets, silhouettes cross the amber horizon. Dozens of dragonflies patrol invisible territories, each protecting a portion of airspace measured not in meters but in opportunities. In the air, precision rules. But beyond the pond, under the forest canopy where the light fractures into shadows, another strategy unfolds, one that is not based on speed or solitary dominance. On the ground, coordination reigns. The forest floor is still in the early morning. Rays of light filter through the canopy, illuminating fallen leaves, rotting wood, the slow architecture of decay. Then something changes. At first, it is a thin, dark ribbon that weaves among the roots. Then it widens, then it multiplies. Army ants. The columns stretch for meters, sometimes hundreds of meters, flowing over tree trunks, crossing vines and entering burrows. There is no single leader. There is no visible command. Yet the movement is unified, determined and relentless. A beetle detects vibration and darts away. A spider abandons its web. Grasshoppers leap blindly into the undergrowth. Prey scatter in all directions, but escape routes vanish as lively streams converge from multiple sides. When the ants arrive, the hesitation ends. Mandibles clamp shut, legs entangle, bodies fragment under coordinated force. Cooperative dismemberment is swift and efficient. A caterpillar much larger than a single ant becomes a shared resource in seconds, diminished not by brute force but by synchronized persistence. The swarm doesn't stop to savor victory, it moves forward. Above the chaos, wings flutter. Antbirds, wood creepers, and other forest species follow the moving front with keen attention. They don't hunt ants, but rather what the ants expel. In the presence of a swarm of army ants, the forest becomes a conveyor belt of fleeing insects. The birds perch on the edges, catching their prey mid-flight. Ants are both predators and catalysts. Their movement restructures opportunities for countless species. This is swarm intelligence in its purest form. Each ant follows simple chemical signals, pheromone trails left by others. None of them understands the scale of the operation. Yet collectively they form a superorganism capable of overwhelming prey far larger than any single body could handle. It is emergence, complex behavior arising from simple rules. Army ants do not build permanent nests. They lack a fixed home excavated in the ground or wood. Instead, they form temporary bivouacs, groups of intertwined bodies suspended from branches or sheltered against tree trunks. The ants themselves become walls, roofs, and shelters. Its existence unfolds in phases. During the stationary phase, the colony remains in one place while the queen produces a large number of eggs. Forays are made outward daily, collecting enough protein to sustain explosive growth. Then comes the nomadic phase. As the larvae develop and demand more food, the colony begins to move almost constantly. Each night, the bivouac dissolves. At dawn, it regroups in a new location. The columns spread across the forest floor like arteries, throbbing with a coordinated hunger. This movement is a microscale migration, fluid, adaptive, and perpetual. Unlike monarch butterflies that cross continents, army ants migrate across centimeters and meters. However, the ecological impact is profound. Entire areas of forest experience a temporary depopulation of arthropods, followed by a gradual recovery once the swarm passes. There's nothing chaotic about it. It's an organized disturbance, a reset button pressed in motion. A fallen tree trunk trembles as the column advances over it. Hidden larvae are unearthed. Beetles that once hid safely now seek the light. The forest floor, once static, becomes dynamic under the advancing ants. They are not cruel. They are not angry. They are systems in motion, consuming, redistributing, and transforming. And when they move, the forest reorganizes itself. A solitary leaf trembles in the undergrowth, not from the wind, but from the breath. Perched on the stem, in perfect harmony with the verdant geometry of its surroundings, a praying mantis waits. Its body is elongated like a blade, indistinguishable from the vegetation it inhabits. Even its coloration subtly changes with age and environment, with shades of jade, straw, and even bark brown, transforming the predator into an ornament. The camouflage here is not just concealment, it's an invitation. A fly lands on a nearby leaf, indifferent. A bee zigzags, laden with pollen. The mantis doesn't move. Its thorax remains fixed, anchored by spindle-shaped legs that grip with silent certainty. Only its head turns, slowly and deliberately. Unlike most insects, the praying mantis can rotate its triangular head almost 280 degrees. Two large compound eyes dominate its face, giving it a depth perception uncommon among arthropods. Between them, three simple eyes detect changes in light intensity. The result is not just vision, but highly refined sensory awareness. The mantis observes, time stretches out, seconds pass like minutes. In the language of predators, patience is a weapon that grows sharper with restraint. Then movement fractures stillness. A moth flies too close. The attack unfolds in less than a tenth of a second. The raptor's forelegs, modified into collapsible barbed traps, are launched forward with explosive acceleration. The chest muscles contract in a rapid burst, converting stored mechanical energy into instantaneous force. The forelegs snap shut, their serrated edges interlocking like prison bars. The prey never stops flapping its wings. Biomechanically, the mantis's attack is a marvel. Its front legs function like spring mechanisms. When cocked, they store potential energy. When released, they extend rapidly, far faster than most prey can visually process. Sensory neurons in the mantis's brain detect movement patterns and trigger a response only when the angle and distance are optimal. It is ambush refined by mathematics. Once captured, the mantis begins feeding immediately, its powerful mandibles reducing the struggling insect with serene efficiency. There is no frenzy, only consumption. This is the paradox of the mantis, serenity and violence occupying the same frame. The surrounding forest continues its rhythm. Sunlight filters through. Cicadas chirp. Life unfolds without fanfare. And yet, at any moment, that motionless green silhouette could erupt in a lethal movement. Even reproduction has its own brutality. During mating, the larger and often hungrier female mantis may consume the male. Sexual cannibalism is not universal, but it occurs with alarming frequency in certain species. In some cases, decapitation does not stop mating. The neural circuits in the male's abdomen can continue the reproductive process even after the loss of his head. To human sensibilities, this seems grotesque. In ecological terms, it's nutrient transfer, protein invested in eggs, optimized survival without sentimentality. The praying mantis does not pursue prey over long distances. It does not swarm or infest. It occupies a small space and transforms it into an area of importance. Pollinators disappear mid-flight. Butterflies are intercepted among the flowers. In rare cases, even small vertebrates such as lizards, frogs, or hummingbirds can fall prey to it. Stillness becomes a strategy. As dusk approaches, the mantis shifts its position along the branch, adjusting its angle to blend into the deepening shadow. Its body is a question mark etched into the foliage, awaiting a moving answer. Predation doesn't always announce itself quickly. Sometimes it waits for the speed to arrive. Stillness can kill. But elsewhere in the forest, another hunter loses patience completely. There are predators that don't rely solely on ambushes. They carry chemicals at the tip of a stinger, toxins designed not just to capture but to instantly overwhelm their prey. Venom changes the rules completely. High in the rainforest canopy, a solitary ant clings to the underside of a leaf. Its body is dark, polished like obsidian. Its mandibles flex, its antennae sweep the air in slow arcs, catching vibrations, scents, and intrusions. This is the bullet ant. At first glance, it seems ordinary, no bigger than a paperclip, nor shinier than the bark it patrols, but hidden in its abdomen is one of the most powerful defensive stingers in the insect world. The camera zooms in. The fine hairs on its body catch the light. The stinger, hidden under its abdomen, curves like a loaded needle. Entomologist Justin Schmidt, who spent years deliberately stinging himself in the name of science, ranked insect stings according to what became known as the Schmidt Pain Index. The bullet ant comes in first. Schmidt described the sensation as a pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking on hot coals with a 3-inch nail driven into your heel. Perhaps hyperbole, but based on experience. A human hand brushes too close. The ant reacts instantly. It anchors itself with its legs, arches its abdomen, and plunges its stinger downward. The movement is swift and decisive. The venom is injected through a hollow lance, pumped by muscular contractions in the abdomen. Within seconds, the pain radiates. It's not sharp or fleeting, but electric, persistent, almost disorienting. Muscles twitch. The limb may feel temporarily paralyzed. Sweat forms. The nervous system is flooded with signals. This is chemistry in action. Bullet ant venom contains toxin, a neurotoxic peptide that interferes with voltage-gated sodium channels in nerve cells. These channels are responsible for initiating and transmitting electrical impulses. By disrupting them, the body's communication network fails. Pain receptors are activated in a cascade of sensations. Unlike many predatory venoms designed to effectively immobilize their prey, this sting is primarily defensive. The bullet ant doesn't hunt humans. It hunts smaller arthropods, which it subdues with a combination of mandibles and venom adapted to its physiology. But when threatened, it unleashes a chemical deterrent so potent that few vertebrates risk a second encounter. Venom in the insect world follows this dual logic. Predatory venom, such as that seen in wasps that paralyze caterpillars, is usually precise and specific. It interferes with neuromuscular junctions, leaving the prey alive but immobile, fresh food for developing larvae. Efficiency is paramount. Defensive venom, on the other hand, prioritizes pain and memory. Honeybees may die after stinging thick-skinned vertebrates because their barbed stingers become lodged. Wasps inject alkaloids and peptides that instantly inflame the tissue. The goal isn't consumption, it's education. One sting and a predator learns to be wary. In the Amazon, certain indigenous initiation rituals involve bullet ant stings, and the young initiates place their hands in woven gloves lined with dozens of ants. The ordeal can last minutes, the pain hours, muscles twitch, arms tremble uncontrollably, yet the ritual underscores a truth long known in the rainforest. This tiny creature commands a respect disproportionate to its size. Back on the leaf, the ant resumes its patrol as if nothing had happened. Its colony thrives in a nearby tree, collecting nectar and hunting smaller insects among the branches. It's not malevolent, it's well-equipped. Venom is not liquid rage, it is adaptation refined over millions of years, a set of molecular tools shaped by predators and prey alike. Each toxin represents an evolutionary negotiation, calibrated to disrupt specific biological pathways. In deserts, forests, and fields, countless insects carry similar chemical arsenals, some subtle, others spectacular, all precise. Poison is chemistry turned into a weapon, and in the microscopic droplets that shoot out through stings and fangs, the balance of survival changes in an instant. Dawn breaks over a dew-drenched meadow. Suspended between two slender stems, a silk circle shimmers in the first light. Each strand is outlined with silver droplets, their geometry revealed by the humidity and the morning sun. The architect is waiting in the center. An orb-weaver spider rests upside down, its legs lightly brushing the radial threads that extend like the spokes of a living compass. The web is not random, it is a calculated tension, spirals arranged with deliberate spacing, each strand coated with sticky droplets designed to trap wings and legs in mid-flight. A moth unknowingly glides into the clearing. The collision is almost silent. The spiderweb absorbs the impact without breaking. The silk stretches, redistributing the force among multiple anchor points. The moth struggles. Vibrations propagate in waves with complex frequencies. At the center, the spider interprets the pattern like a musician. Size, location, urgency. In seconds, it moves forward. Spider silk is one of nature's most extraordinary materials. Weight for weight, it rivals steel in tensile strength while maintaining astonishing flexibility. It can stretch significantly before breaking, dissipating the energy that would shatter rigid fibers. Produced as a liquid protein within specialized glands, the silk solidifies as it passes through spinnerets, transforming the chemical substance into a strand. The spider encircles its prey, flicking fresh silk in swift arcs. The wrapping is methodical and precise. The moth is encased in a cocoon before the venom is released. Immobilization occurs rapidly, and enzymes begin the slow liquefaction process within. Spiders don't chew their food, they dissolve it, but not all nets hang outdoors. Beneath the forest floor, another strategy unfolds. The trapdoor spider constructs a silk-lined burrow, sealing the entrance with a hinged lid camouflaged with moss and debris. From above, it appears to be just forest floor. Inside, the spider waits in the darkness, its front legs pressed against the bottom of the door. The outside world is silent until it isn't. A beetle crawls overhead. The slight tremor travels through silk threads radiating from the burrow entrance. The spider interprets the signal instantly. The door swings open, the mandibles snap shut. The prey is dragged down, and the entrance slams shut behind it as if nothing had happened. Elsewhere, funnel-web spiders spread their webs across the grass, narrowing them into silken tunnels. Insects stumble onto the platform and become trapped. The resident spider, hidden in the funnel's shadow, moves with astonishing speed. In different habitats, grasslands, forests, and deserts, web architecture varies, but the principle remains constant: to turn space into a sensor. Spiders don't rely heavily on sight. Instead, they inhabit a world defined by vibration. Every strand of silk transmits information. The wind produces one signal. A struggling insect produces another. Even the cautious steps of a predator create patterns that signal danger. Venom completes the system. Once the fangs pierce the exoskeleton or skin, a cocktail of neurotoxins and enzymes enters the prey's body. Some venoms disrupt the ion channels of nerve cells, interrupting muscle control. Others initiate external digestion, breaking down tissues into an absorbable fluid. In many species, the process is rapid and efficient, and the prey is subdued before it can offer significant resistance. The camera alternates between struggle and stillness. A fly stirs on the sticky silk. A spider advances with measured confidence. The entanglement intensifies. The movement slows. Then it stops. This is engineering applied to predation. Structures built not for shelter, but for interception. Materials extracted from the body, recalibrated daily, and recycled when damaged. Spiders are often mistaken for insects, but they belong to a different lineage, the eight-legged ancient arachnids. Even so, in the theatre of small-scale lethality, they are among the most refined actors. Some hunt with silk, transforming the air and the ground into traps that think. Others disregard architecture altogether. They stalk, pursue, and seize. Some hunt with silk, others with jaws. In a sunny clearing, a caterpillar feeds on the edge of a leaf. Its body arches and contracts at a slow pace, while its mandibles carve sharp crescents into the green tissue. It is unaware that it is being watched. Nearby, almost motionless, floats a slender wasp, no bigger than a grain of rice. Its body gleams metallic blue in the filtered light. Its antennae sweep the air, analyzing the chemical traces left by its feeding. It doesn't rely solely on sight. It interprets the leaf for disturbances, saliva, and the subtle signs of herbivory. This is a parasitoid wasp. Unlike predators that kill and consume immediately, parasitoids follow a different strategy. Their larvae require a living host to sustain them while they grow. Death is not the primary goal. Survival is. The wasp gently lands on the caterpillar's back. There's no dramatic struggle. With a single fluid motion, it curls its abdomen and inserts its ovipositor, a specialized organ designed not only for laying eggs but also for piercing tissue. The contact lasts only seconds. An egg is deposited beneath the caterpillar's skin, then she leaves. Inside the host, the egg hatches. The larva begins to feed, but sparingly. Evolution has perfected this moderation. At first, it avoids vital organs. The host continues eating, growing, and behaving as if nothing has changed. It becomes both shelter and sustenance. This isn't cruelty, it's programming. In some species, the wasp injects not only an egg, but also symbiotic viruses that suppress the host's immune system. These polynaviruses prevent the caterpillar from encapsulating and destroying the intruder. The immune defenses are deactivated with molecular precision. As the days pass, the larva matures inside its life chamber. Finally, it must emerge. When that moment arrives, the caterpillar's fate shifts from host to vessel. The larva emerges and spins a cocoon nearby, while the caterpillar, if still alive, may remain strangely motionless beside it. In certain remarkable cases, behavioral manipulation occurs. The infected caterpillar alters its normal patterns, ceasing to feed and acting as a protector of the developing wasp pupae. It may attack approaching predators, thus defending the very organisms that consumed it from within. The mechanisms behind this manipulation are still being studied. Chemical signals, neuronal interference, and hormonal alteration. The wasp does not exert conscious control. Instead, evolutionary pressures have favored subtle biochemical adjustments that redirect the host's behavior in a way that benefits the parasite. Finally, the adult wasp emerges from its cocoon, unfurling its wings in the humid air. The cycle begins again. In forests, fields, and gardens, thousands of parasitoid species operate with similar precision. Some specialize in caterpillars. Others attack beetle larvae, aphids, and even spider eggs. Each species is adapted to its host, synchronizing egg development with the host's growth, which in turn synchronizes life cycles with seasonal abundance. In agricultural systems, these wasps are often beneficial, naturally regulating pest populations without the need for chemical intervention. Their presence influences plant health, crop yields, and ecological balance. The camera stops on the empty leaf. The feeding marks remain. The caterpillar has disappeared. In its place, a small cluster of silk cocoons clings to the underside of a branch. Insects don't just kill to eat. Some kill to reproduce. For the parasitoid wasp, lethality is not an end in itself. It is an investment, a transfer of energy from one body to the next generation. Brutal in appearance, precise in execution, and deeply rooted in the structure of ecosystems worldwide. A sunlit forest trail teems with life. Leaves glisten with dew, shadows shift, and the ground crackles with movement. Armored hunters prowl this terrain, each equipped with adaptations honed over millions of years. Tiger beetles spring into action. Their long legs move with mechanical precision, their mandibles open in anticipation. Their bodies flash metallic green and bronze, catching the sunlight with every dash. At speeds that rival those of a cheetah on a relative scale, they chase ants, termites, and other small arthropods across the bare ground. Their vision is sharp. Their large compound eyes track the movement of their prey, adjusting their trajectory mid-stride. When the target is within range, their mandibles open with unerring accuracy. The hunt is lightning fast, measured in milliseconds, but it is repeated countless times a day. Let's compare this to stag beetles, hulking giants of the forest floor. Males raise enormous antler-like mandibles in battles for territory and mating rights. Unlike the solitary precision of tiger beetles, stag beetle aggression is ritualized and mechanical. Rivals clash to the sound of wood, scraping against wood, and strength and balance dictate victory. These battles rarely result in death. Instead, survival is decided by strength, timing, and position. Even here, predation is indirect. The victor secures the reproductive advantage, shaping future populations. Beneath the leaf litter and in the water, a different kind of beetle patrols. Diving beetles, streamlined and dark, skim across ponds and slow-moving streams. Air bubbles cling to their elytra, invisible submarines beneath rippling surfaces. They hunt with patience and explosive acceleration, detecting vibrations from tadpoles, mosquito larvae, and even small fish. Once within range, they extend their forelegs to seize their prey, mandibles clamp down, and the capture is swift and complete. The liquid world imposes resistance, but the beetle's hydraulically powered and elegantly armored body moves with surprising grace and lethal efficiency. This diversity highlights a fundamental truth. Beetles are not a single type of predator, but a full spectrum of lethal strategies. On land, some rely on speed and precision, others on sheer mechanical strength. In water, stealth and hydrodynamics determine success. Each niche exploited by different species reinforces the dominance of insects in almost every ecosystem, acting simultaneously as predator, prey, and ecological engineer. Tiger beetles regulate populations of fast-moving insects in trails and clearings. Stag beetles influence the genetic structure of their species through competition. Diving beetles control aquatic prey communities, shaping populations of invertebrates and vertebrates below the water's surface. In each case, beetle predation is a subtle, profound, and silent process that maintains ecological balance. Observe the edge of a forest at dusk. Tiger beetles dart across the ground, pursuing prey that appears and disappears almost instantly. A pair of stag beetles wrestle in slow motion beneath a rotting log. In the nearby pond, diving beetles glide under water lilies, surfacing briefly to replenish their strength before returning to the hunt. In these different microhabitats, the same principle applies. Armored bodies, specialized appendages, and refined hunting strategies converge to produce effective and persistent predators. Some are solitary, others rely on confrontation, still others take advantage of stealth. Together, they form a tapestry of predation at the terrestrial-aquatic interface. Their diversity reminds us that lethality is not monolithic. It depends on the context. It adapts to the substrate, the prey, and the opportunity. The forest floor throbs with the mechanical precision of beetles. The soil, the leaf litter, the water, and the air are all stages of predation. And as the sunlight fades, the shadows deepen, highlighting another truth about the natural world. Where the land ends, the water begins, and the water harbors its own killers, equally patient, equally lethal. Beneath the reflected surface of a still pond, the world is strange. Sunlight refracts through the water, casting shifting patterns on the mud, roots, and floating vegetation. Shadows move with subtle purpose, silent, patient, lethal. Among them lurks a giant water bug. Its dark, flattened body blends seamlessly with the submerged leaves. Hooked legs and fringed paddles hold it in place as its muscles tense. Its pointed, grasping front legs await the slightest vibration. A fry floats too close. The bug strikes with explosive speed. Its snout pierces the soft tissue, injecting digestive enzymes that begin to dissolve the prey from within. The fry vanishes in an instant, leaving only ripples in its wake. Nearby, diving beetles patrol with equal stealth. Dark, streamlined, and armored beneath glossy elytra, they navigate the underwater labyrinth with the patience of a predator. They hunt mosquito larvae, tadpoles, and small aquatic invertebrates. Upon detecting prey, it accelerates suddenly, propelling itself with hydraulic-like efficiency. Mandibles snap shut, wings beat beneath the elytra for brief bursts, and the prey is captured before it has a chance to react. Dragonfly nymphs add another layer to this hidden realm. Sturdy and armored, they appear clumsy until they begin to move. Extendable mandibles and grasping masks shoot forward with lightning speed, snapping shut on small fish or aquatic insects. The attack is calculated. Neural circuits predict the prey's trajectory. Fluid dynamics, body mass, and mandible acceleration combine into a single, perfectly synchronized movement. Seconds are measured in milliseconds. The prey vanishes, the nymph returns to stillness, waiting for the next wave. In these ponds, every movement has consequences. Water transmits signals efficiently. Vibrations travel faster than in air. Prey can sense danger, but only slightly before the predator. Camouflage, stealth, and lightning-fast strikes define success. Unlike terrestrial predators, aquatic insects must contend with drag, resistance, and buoyancy, forces that challenge locomotion and timing. Yet evolution has solved each problem. Paddles, claws, and extendable mandibles operate with a precision that rivals that of any terrestrial predator. The camera slowly pans over submerged logs, leaf litter, and mats of algae. The water teems with unseen conflict. Fry darts swiftly through the shadows. Mosquito larvae writhe at the edges. Dragonfly nymphs, diving beetles, and water bugs patrol like ghostly sentinels. For every predator, there are multiple prey, and each encounter transforms the microecosystem. The lens rises to the surface. Sunlight shines dimly. The ripples fade. The seemingly tranquil pond conceals a constant, swift, invisible, and efficient war. These aquatic hunters dominate their niche not with spectacle, but with persistence. Predation is measured in probability, in patience, in countless micro-moments executed with evolutionary precision. Water is a different arena. Speed is tempered by resistance, ambush is perfected by stillness, and stealth is absolute. The small scale of these predators belies their effectiveness. Across thousands of ponds, streams, and wetlands, they regulate populations of fry, mosquito larvae, and countless invertebrates, silently maintaining the balance. And yet even here, survival depends on more than stealth. Life adapts to pressure, whether in water or air. Evolution has endowed these insects with specialized tools, creating hunters capable of dominating entirely different physical realms. From the mirror-like pools of wetlands to the vast expanses of deserts, predatory strategies change, but the principle remains the same. Patience, precision, and adaptation determine who survives. The desert awaits with its own arsenal. The desert stretches as far as the eye can see, a sea of sand and stone under a relentless sun. Waves of heat reflect on the horizon, distorting rocks, dunes, and the occasional patch of scrub. Life here moves to a rhythm dictated by extremes, scorching days, freezing nights, and a scarcity that spares no expense. Tiny silhouettes march across the sand, methodical and unwavering. They are desert ants, a species adapted to one of Earth's most unforgiving landscapes. Navigation here is a puzzle solved with remarkable precision. The ants read the sun's angle, calculating the azimuth with compound eyes specialized in detecting polarized light. Every step is measured, every deviation optimized. The search for food is a game of efficiency. Energy expended must never exceed energy gained. Failure means immediate death, not starvation for days. Some ants patrol in brilliant heat waves, their bodies covered in reflective hairs that reduce the absorption of solar radiation. Others dig deep burrows, regulating temperature and humidity in microclimates beneath the sand. Predation is constant, though subtle. Insects, small reptiles, and even wandering arthropods fall victim to ambushes along these desert trails. The ants are both predators and scavengers, striking with lightning speed when the opportunity arises. Not far from these roads, dark beetles dot the horizon, masters of a completely different strategy. In coastal deserts where fog rolls in from the ocean, these beetles collect moisture directly from the air. Standing on striated exoskeletons tilted into the fog-laden wind, they condense water droplets along their backs. which then run to their mouths. Here, survival is measured in milliliters of water, but even this small resource fuels predation. A hydrated beetle can pursue its prey, evade predators, and maintain its colony, turning survival into a tactical advantage. As night falls, the desert transforms once more. The heat recedes, replaced by an insidious chill. Shadows lengthen, revealing another predator, the scorpion. Though technically arachnids, scorpions share an ecological overlap with desert insects. Their bodies are low, armored, and nocturnal, hunting silently. Their pincers grip with crushing precision. Their venom, neurotoxic and lethal to small prey, completes the design. With their tails arched like springs, they strike with an accuracy honed over millions of years. Tiny insects, centipedes, and even young lizards succumb to this methodical efficiency. The desert imposes a brutal calculation. Every movement requires an expenditure of energy. Every action must balance risk and reward. Here, predators operate with extreme efficiency. The ant that miscalculates the angle of the sun may wander in circles, dehydrating before reaching its food. The beetle that fails to harvest fog loses the fuel for its next hunt. The scorpion that attacks poorly loses prey and opportunities. However, adaptation thrives. Ant colonies employ division of labor, where each worker performs tasks suited to its size, strength, and environmental stimuli. Beetles optimize water intake and energy reserves by storing fat in specialized abdominal tissues. Scorpions synchronize their hunting activity with lunar cycles and temperature thresholds. Efficiency in predation is inseparable from efficiency in survival itself. Even the tiniest desert insect bears the mark of selection. Its mandibles, legs, exoskeletons, and sensory organs are sculpted to minimize losses and maximize yield. Every encounter is simultaneously a hunt and a resource management exercise. The desert becomes a crucible where lethality and resilience are indistinguishable. As night deepens and stars pierce the black sky, the desert floor teems with life. Ants tracing invisible lines across the sand, beetles perched to harvest the last moisture, scorpions silently gliding beneath the shadows of the rocks. Predation here is invisible yet relentless. Survival is measured in millimeters of water, milligrams of prey, and moments of calculated risk. In this landscape, heat and hunger dictate mastery. The desert teaches that efficiency is not optional, it is survival. And for these small hunters, armored, winged, or venomous, lethality is an extension of resilience. From arid sands to lush wetlands, life adapts, hunts, and persists. The rainforest is a living cathedral where sunlight filters through layers of green to create ever-changing mosaics on the ground. Every square meter vibrates with movement. Leaves tremble, insects crawl, birds flutter, and mammals glide through the branches, but it is the insects that dominate, both in number and influence. Leafcutter ants march in astonishing lines, each worker carrying a leaf fragment much larger than its own body. The trails stretch for tens of meters, snaking through the undergrowth with unerring coordination. The fragments are not food for the ants, but fuel for an underground garden of fungi, their true source of nutrition. Every bite, every leaf they carry is a transaction in a complex energy conversion system, transforming vegetation into biomass and biomass into survival. Above them, weaver ants patrol the branches. Agile and aggressive, they maintain their territory by building elaborate nests woven from leaves bound together with silk produced by their own larvae. Their cooperative hunting techniques allow them to subdue prey much larger than themselves. When a cricket or caterpillar gets too close, dozens of ants converge, immobilizing it in minutes. The coordination is instinctive, chemical, and almost perfect. Nearby, preying mantises cling to the stems, invisible thanks to their camouflage. Their patience complements the frenetic activity of the ant columns. Each attack, each capture is precise, efficient, and vital. Dragonflies flutter near the puddles, beetles forage in the leaf litter, and countless other insects move through every vertical and horizontal layer of this dense habitat. This biomass is astounding. Studies estimate that in some rainforests, the collective mass of insects can exceed that of all vertebrates combined. They are the base of the food web. Caterpillars feed on leaves, ants harvest vegetation and smaller insects. Mantises and predatory beetles regulate populations. Birds, lizards, and frogs follow the trails, taking advantage of the opportunities created by these industrious invertebrates. Each insect contributes to a cascade of energy transfer, supporting predators large and small. Visual stratification is crucial for understanding the complexity of the rainforest. The canopy teems with life invisible from the ground: ants building bridges, beetles grazing on leaves, mantises hovering in the shadows. The understory vibrates with movement: leafcutter ants marching, beetles digging tunnels, mantises adjusting their angles for ambush. Even the ground is full of activity, a network of decomposers and detritivores recycling nutrients to sustain the system. Interactions are constant. Predation and competition coexist with mutualism. Ant nests follow ant swarms to catch prey emerging from their hiding places. Some beetles feed on fungi cultivated by leafcutter ants. Mantises and spiders occupy overlapping niches, each adapting to the density of the other. Every layer of the forest is a theatre of survival, and every individual participates in an intricate ecological choreography. Insects are both architects and predators. Their tunnels aerate the soil, their foraging disperses seeds and fungi. Their predation balances herbivore populations, preventing defoliation that could destabilize the ecosystem. In essence, the rainforest thrives because insects thrive. Without them, the forest's architecture, both literal and functional, would collapse. The canopy vibrates with sounds, scents, and movement. The forest floor, a mosaic of decay and life, ripples with the movement as columns of ants rush past, mantises strike, and beetles forage. From the leaf litter to the treetops, the density is extraordinary. It is a reminder that the most complex interactions in the rainforest occur on a small scale, where sheer numbers of individuals and ceaseless activity create the pulse of life. Where insects dominate, they lay the foundation for larger predators: birds, reptiles, mammals, all dependent on the energy and structure they provide. They are not only survivors, but also sustainers. The dense, humid, and inexhaustible rainforest is a testament to what happens when life operates at maximum density. From the stratified chaos of rainforest soils to open deserts and tranquil ponds, insects relentlessly, adaptively, and fundamentally shape ecosystems. As evening falls over a temperate wetland, the air fills with movement and sound. Swarms of insects rise from the marshes, shimmering like living clouds. To human eyes, the spectacle is chaotic. For the animals that hunt here, it is an opportunity. The birds swoop down among the swarms with astonishing precision. Swallows and swifts trace arcs and loops, mouths agape, plucking insects in mid-flight. Every maneuver is calculated. The energy expended must yield sustenance. An insect missed is worth more than a meal. It is a wasted effort, potentially critical in the hours before nightfall. Bats emerge at dusk, their wings cutting through the air with silent efficiency. Using echolocation, they map the position of countless insects in real time. Each ultrasonic pulse reveals movement, size, and trajectory. They pursue and capture their targets almost invisibly. Tiny bodies vanish into gaping jaws. Even in near-total darkness, the precision hunt continues, predator and prey locked in a complex struggle for survival. At the water's edge, the frogs perch and wait. Their bulging eyes and sticky tongues are ready for action. When a mosquito, moth, or gnat gets too close, they flick out their tongues with lightning speed. The attack is clean, precise, and repeated again and again. Even vertebrates, which rely on reflexes, must compete with the number and speed of their prey. However, insects are not mere victims. They also hunt. Dragonflies weave their way through swarms with surgical precision, mantises stalk their prey, and predatory beetles lie in wait both on land and in water. Mosquitoes and biting flies attack vertebrates for food, spreading parasites with lethal efficiency. In this realm, insects are both predators and prey, shaping the behavior, pace, and success rates of larger species. Balance is key. Predation is reciprocal. Birds, bats, and frogs cannot overexploit insect populations without risking their own survival. In turn, insects develop defenses: swarming, rapid flight, camouflage, chemical deterrence, and poison. Each strategy influences the next, creating a web of interactions that sustains the stability of the ecosystem. The images intertwine these relationships. Birds weave their way through swarms of mosquitoes. Dragonflies intercept with unerring precision. Frogs flick their tongues at insects fluttering among the reeds. Bats chase mosquitoes, guided by pulses inaudible to humans. Each scene reinforces the duality. Insects feed vertebrates, vertebrates regulate them, and neither dominates completely. The numbers change the calculation. Individual vertebrate predators can capture prey skillfully and quickly, but sheer biomass matters. Insects exist in densities far exceeding those of vertebrates. Even a seemingly chaotic swarm is statistically predictable. There are enough prey to sustain countless hunters. This abundance allows ecosystems to support a much greater diversity of species than vertebrate populations alone could sustain. Insects may be small, but they exert a disproportionate influence. A mosquito, an ant, or a beetle may seem insignificant, but collectively they determine the feeding behaviors, migratory patterns, and population dynamics of vertebrates. Predation here is not a simple competition of size or strength, but a game of probabilities, numbers, and relentless persistence. The dance continues as night fully settles. Frogs croak, bats dive, swallows glide, and insects vibrate like a spring tide. Every movement is about survival, every encounter a lesson in balance. Vertebrates may dominate in perception and size, but insects dominate in abundance, strategy, and ecological influence. But the numbers change everything. The horizon gleams under a relentless sun, but it is not the heat that dominates the sky, but the movement. Millions of wings beat in unison, casting shadows across the landscape, and the world trembles under the weight of life, multiplied beyond imagination. Swarms of locusts spread across the plains, a living cloud of green and gold. Each individual moves in response to its neighbors, creating patterns that appear intentional but arise from simple rules of proximity and chemical signaling. Trees bend under the collective force as leaves vanish in minutes. Fields that once held crops are ravaged, and for both humans and animals, the sudden abundance of destruction is terrifying in its scale. Deep underground, termite colonies prepare for a new emergence. Winged reproductives fill the tunnels, waiting for the perfect moment to take flight. With the first gusts of warm wind, thousands emerge from the ground, their wings gleaming in the sunlight. In the sky, predators wait. Birds, bats, and even larger insects ready to take advantage of the sudden feast. The termites disperse to found new colonies, a mass migration orchestrated by environmental cues and biological imperatives. Each emergence transforms the ecosystem, redistributing biomass and nutrients across the landscape. Mayflies add a new dimension to this phenomenon. Along rivers and lakes, entire surfaces of water shimmer with emerging adults. They dry their wings, seek a mate, lay eggs, and within days the adults die. Their bodies are released into the water, feeding fish, birds, and decomposers alike. Their synchronized life cycle ensures reproduction despite their short lifespan and constant predation. Swarms are more than just a spectacle, they are ecological forces. When they reach a critical mass, insects alter their environments. Locusts can reshape vegetation across thousands of square kilometers. Termites aerate and fertilize the soil with their nests and waste, influencing plant growth long after their wings have vanished. Mayfly hatches deliver concentrated nutrients to aquatic ecosystems, feeding countless species. Each event is a pulse of energy coursing through the ecosystem, demonstrating how abundance itself becomes a weapon, a tool, and a survival strategy. The images overlay this complexity. The sun reflects thousands of moving wings, shadows ripple across the sand and water, and predator-prey interactions unfold with astonishing frequency. The camera shifts from the individual to the collective, from a single insect taking flight to the swirling mass that dominates the landscape. Insects are not merely solitary hunters, but architects of density, transforming everything around them through the sheer force of their numbers. Population density increases survival. Predators cannot capture every individual. Even with high mortality, reproduction ensures the next generation thrives. Swarming behavior disperses risk, increases reproductive success, and neutralizes potential threats. In this way, multiplicity becomes a strategy. A single locust may be vulnerable, but a million move as one, flooding fields, confusing predators, and redefining their environment. Sometimes survival requires more than stealth, speed, or venom. Sometimes survival means moving together. By land, air, and water, the collective power of insects demonstrates that even the smallest bodies, by multiplying, exert influence on a continental scale. From solitary hunters to massive swarms, the insect world teaches that strength is not always measured in size. It is measured in numbers, coordination, and tireless persistence. Then the movement transforms into migration as the insects cross continents and climates in search of survival. Across continents, the sky transforms into a river of orange and black. Monarch butterflies float over forests, fields, and mountains, beating their wings with a precise rhythm as they embark on a journey of thousands of kilometers. Each individual is fragile, but together they form a living current, navigating the sun, magnetic fields, and an instinct honed over millennia. Their migration is a form of survival in its purest form, a response to seasonal scarcity and the relentless passage of time. Not all migrations are delicate. Locusts, on the other hand, sweep across the plains like living storms, moving en masse to exploit vegetation before it withers. Their swarms respond to rainfall patterns, air currents, and resource availability. Each flight is a calculated gamble. The wrong direction or timing can lead to famine. Yet, when conditions align, millions descend upon fertile lands, consuming and redistributing biomass with astonishing efficiency. These movements are not arbitrary. Wet and dry cycles dictate opportunities. In tropical forests, army ants synchronize their nomadic and stationary phases with seasonal abundance, flooding the forest floor when prey populations peak. Dragonflies time the emergence of their nymphs to coincide with periods of maximum prey density in ponds and wetlands. Even the smallest insects rely on cues from temperature, humidity, and daylight to optimize their survival and reproduction. Migration demonstrates large-scale adaptation. It is a strategy for surviving environmental variability. Monarchs hibernate in specific high-altitude forests, conserving energy until spring brings new milkweed blooms. Locusts track rainfall to find emerging vegetation, sometimes traveling hundreds of kilometers as swarms. These patterns highlight the interplay between climate, behavior, and ecological impact. Insects respond to their environment with precision, and their movements ripple outward, affecting predators, prey, and entire ecosystems. The images capture the magnitude of these migrations: monarchs flooding the sky, locusts stretching across the horizon, dragonflies fluttering over newly filled ponds. Beyond the spectacle, the message is clear. Survival depends not only on brute force, but also on synchronization, coordination, and a deep understanding of the world's rhythms. Insects, despite their small size, demonstrate remarkable strategies for persistence. Migration and seasonal movement are survival tactics that ensure the persistence of populations, the balance of ecosystems, and the continuity of predation across time and space. Their journeys remind us that even the tiniest creatures are deeply connected to the pulse of the planet, shaping and responding to the climate in subtle and profound ways. From these migrations, a pattern emerges. Adaptation is not passive. It is action, movement, and foresight encoded in instinct that guide insects through landscapes and seasons in a relentless search for life. Next, we move from migration to the intricate balance of ecosystems, where the influence of insects extends to all levels of the food web. In the dappled light of a forest, a leaf stirs slightly. At first glance, it seems ordinary, just another green fragment swaying in the breeze. But closer inspection reveals movement. A caterpillar, its body perfectly colored and textured to match the leaf's veins, creeping along undetected. Camouflage is the oldest trick in the insect repertoire, and it's just one of many tools honed in the relentless arms race between predator and prey. Mimicry takes deception a step further. Certain hoverflies resemble wasps in coloration and posture, deterring predators despite lacking a stinger. Deadleaf butterflies fold their wings to disappear completely among the leaf litter. Even ants have evolved to mimic the shapes, colors, and movements of other, more dangerous species. These strategies are not random. They are responses to selective pressure. Predators learn, prey adapt, and over generations, subtle variations proliferate, increasing survival rates. Toxicity signaling adds another layer of sophistication. Bright colors, reds, yellows, and blacks, warn of poison, venom, or foul taste. Monarch caterpillars feed on milkweed, incorporating its toxins into their bodies, which in turn educates birds and other predators to avoid them. In response, some predators develop tolerance or alternative hunting strategies, forcing the insects to innovate again. The cycle continues endlessly: deception, detection, adaptation, counter-adaptation. Coevolution shapes ecosystems. Predators and prey continually feed back into each other, refining not only their physical traits but also their behaviors, rhythms, and life cycles. Dragonflies anticipate the movement of their prey in milliseconds. Ants coordinate collective attacks to overwhelm other insects. Spiders adjust the architecture of their webs to the local density of prey. Each adjustment triggers counterattacks, creating a dynamic and ever-changing landscape of survival. The images reinforce the strategy: a stick insect swaying in the wind, indistinguishable from the branches, a preying mantis frozen among flowers, its gaze fixed on a pollinating insect, a wasp hovering near a mimic, calculating the risk of attack. Each scene illustrates how insects exploit perception, physiology, and instinct in a dance dictated by survival. The arms race is not limited to individual species. Entire ecosystems evolve under its pressure. Plants develop toxins to deter herbivores, which in turn adapt to neutralize them, while predators hunt those herbivores with ever-increasing efficiency. Insects become both agents and targets of these evolutionary pressures, driving change in organisms large and small. For 400 million years, insects have perfected the art of survival. From the earliest winged pioneers to armored beetles, poisonous ants, and locusts, each adaptation is a testament to persistence, ingenuity, and the relentless pressure of predation. Camouflage, mimicry, and toxicity are not mere curiosities, but the result of an unbroken chain of evolution that shapes behavior, morphology, and ecosystems alike. In this world, life is strategy. Every color, every movement, every chemical is a message, a warning, a promise, or a deception. Survival is not passive, it is active, iterative, and relentless. From the microscopic to the enormous, insects embody the enduring consequences of an evolutionary arms race, refined over hundreds of millions of years, perfected in countless ways, and shaping life on Earth in ways that extend far beyond their size. Next, we explore the human dimension, how our presence intersects with these ancient systems. In every landscape on Earth, jungles, deserts, wetlands, and mountains, the story is the same. Insects persist where others falter, thrive where others struggle, and dominate where vertebrates barely exist. Their reign is silent, almost imperceptible, yet profoundly influential. The exoskeleton is the first evidence of their success. A rigid yet lightweight armor protects against predation, prevents desiccation, and facilitates muscle attachment far more efficiently than internal skeletons at this scale. Each segment is an engineering marvel, durable yet flexible, strong yet light, allowing for both movement and defense. Unlike vertebrates, insects wear their armor externally, freeing up internal space for organs and reproduction, thus maximizing both survival and productivity. Reproduction is another axis of dominance. A female mosquito can lay hundreds of eggs in a single night. Leafcutter ants produce sprawling colonies where each worker contributes to the survival of the whole. Dragonflies, locusts, and termites follow similar strategies. Their staggering populations ensure that, even in the face of predation, disease, or environmental extremes, a portion of the population survives to reproduce. Scale multiplies the impact. Populations recover quickly, creating a resilience that similarly sized mammals cannot match. Small size is an advantage in itself. Insects exploit niches inaccessible to larger animals, penetrating microhabitats among leaves, under bark, and in soil or water. Energy demands increase with size, and tiny bodies require far less energy to stay moving and hunt. Flying, jumping, burrowing, and climbing become efficient, opening up ecological opportunities inaccessible to larger species. Small size grants them invisibility, speed, and versatility, attributes that amplify their predatory efficiency and survival. Ecological adaptability completes the picture. Insects are everywhere because they can be everywhere. They pollinate, decompose, prey, parasitize, and regulate ecosystems simultaneously. They respond to seasonal changes, adjust their life cycles, and exploit resources in the vertical and horizontal layers of the habitat. Whether in extreme heat, intense cold, or saturated wetlands, insects have developed physiological, behavioral, and reproductive strategies that allow them to persist where vertebrates would perish. Let's consider biomass. Globally, insects represent an enormous share of animal biomass and ecological activity. While a single elephant or wolf captures human attention, the accumulated mass of ants alone may rival that of major groups of terrestrial vertebrates in some estimates. Insects shape ecosystems from the ground up. They recycle nutrients, control populations, pollinate plants, and form the base of food webs. Their influence is disproportionate to individual size, as it is multiplied by their numbers, efficiency, and ubiquity. Upon reflection, one understands why insects dominate the earth. They are armored yet agile, prolific yet precise, small yet infinitely adaptable. Their evolutionary toolkit, their exoskeleton, their reproductive efficiency, and their adaptability grants them unparalleled resilience in the vertebrate world. They persist in the face of catastrophes, thrive in microhabitats, and maintain ecological balance with a subtle yet relentless persistence. Human perception often associates size with power, roar with authority, but the silent hum of insects tells a different story. They are the architects, engineers, hunters, and survivors of every ecosystem, shaping the world without fanfare but with undeniable authority. Insects are small, but collectively they are monumental. Their kingdom is not measured by the shadows cast by teeth or claws, but by the ecosystems they sustain, the cycles they govern, and the ubiquity of their presence. The earth belongs to them in ways visible and invisible, silent yet absolute. Next, we explore the subtle consequences of human expansion in this ancient domain. In farmlands, forests, and wetlands, human influence on insect populations is increasingly visible. Pesticides, designed to control pests, are often used indiscriminately, decimating pollinator communities vital to both wild plants and crops. Bees, butterflies, and native pollinators have experienced dramatic declines, disrupting the ecological networks that depend on their activity for reproduction and survival. Habitat fragmentation exacerbates these pressures. Roads, urban sprawl, and agricultural conversion divide continuous ecosystems into isolated areas. Insects that rely on wide foraging areas or seasonal migration face barriers that reduce survival and genetic diversity. Colonies become more vulnerable to local collapse, and specialized predators lose access to prey that once thrived in uninterrupted landscapes. Climate change poses a greater challenge to insect life. Rising temperatures and altered rainfall patterns disrupt reproductive cycles, migration seasons, and resource availability. Species that once synchronized with seasonal cues now struggle to adapt their life cycles to plant flowering or the emergence of prey. Mosquitoes and other disease vectors expand into new regions, while pollinators and predatory insects decline, creating imbalances that impact ecosystems. In this context, the consequences are subtle yet profound. Insects don't disappear dramatically. Their disappearance is gradual, measured by the decrease in buzzing and the decline in swarming. Ecological systems falter in response, revealing the fragility of networks that have persisted for hundreds of millions of years. They don't roar when they disappear. They lose weight. They blink. They disappear from the night air. And when the buzzing fades, the silence will not be empty. It will be a